What up everybody, in this video I'm going to answer an age-old question about how Japan always whoops us in Street Fighter. I swear once a year in one of my feeds this question gets asked, how does Japan just dominate Street Fighter, the rest of the world can't? And you can answer this question a million different ways, but I'm here to tell you the 5 perfect storm elements that the Japanese have that work for them. Some of these range from things that we can actually improve on as the rest of the world to downright unfair that we don't stand a chance. So let's get into it right now and let me know what you think. The first element that's completely out of people's control, it's geography, and the Japanese have won that unique geographic lottery needed to dominate in a certain game. And if we just look at that historically speaking, the only way to really get good at fighting games back in the day was to travel, because there was no such thing as a true console perfect port. If you want to get better, you had to play the best version of that game, which is likely going to be in the arcade. And there was no better place in the world to travel around with this high of a population than Japan. You had the top players basically living in 3 different regions that are attached to each other, that have nearly 100 million people living there, and their transit system let them get around with ease. Not every place can compete with that. For example, I live on one side of Canada. If I wanted to play someone on the far west coast of Canada or the States, it's going to be costing me an arm and a leg to get on a flight to get there. There's no other way. We're kind of just attached to our own pool at that point. But that's something that the Japanese didn't have to deal with just as much. And I know you're going to ask, well, now these days arcades are dead. We have the perfect ports right away. So how are the Japanese still dominating? Well, I'm here to tell you their geography still matters, because they're located in an area that still has access to very powerful countries around them that they can practice with, like China, South Korea, when they play online. And because their geography and the infrastructure is so good, Japan's online is amazing as well. So they're able to play different matches and play at a different level than everybody else just because their internet connection is so good. Be honest, how many of us here living in North America, we go into Battle Hub, we see someone just sitting on a cabinet alone, you go over and you see it's a South American Ryu player and you wonder, is this going to be 100 MS? It says it's green bar, you go in, it's 250 MS. We've all been there. That's just not something that the Japanese have to deal with. Their pool is huge, and that is a large part to their geography. So long story short, geography is extremely important, and unless you go move out to East Asia or Japan, you ain't gonna be changing that anytime soon. So that's one huge boon for them. The next thing is their dedication to growing the presence and the brand of Street Fighter is absolutely nuts. Now this is something a lot of the world is catching up with quite a bit, just through things like the advancements of YouTube, esports. There's a lot more exposure to the games that we love, but we're still nowhere near the level that the Japanese are repping Street Fighter. And Street Fighter 6 is everywhere in Japan, and this is not something that's just pushed by Capcom or Capcom's marketing team. I'm talking about the everyday streamer, top players. People are pushing the coverage of Street Fighter. It's almost like it's a national sport there right now. And this is something that's been bubbling for a long time. A lot of people know back in the Street Fighter 4 days, you'd go over to some dingy YouTube stream to watch Topanga League. And by the way, total tangent, Topanga from Boy Meets Girl, it's like one of my top 3 favorite crushes growing up. Teenage Sing, it was Topanga from Boy Meets World, Hilary Banks from Fresh Prince, and Kelly Kapowski from Saved by the Bell. Top 3, let me know if I'm wrong in the comment section. Let's get back into the video. But I remember the first time seeing Topanga League and just thinking, holy, they're covering this like it's a sport. Everyone is doing commentating. They have post-game interviews. They have pre-game interviews. They're going through every single play, showing replays. And I just thought, whoa, this is happening in 2009. Who knows where it's going to go? The rest of the world has been catching up slowly, but Japan just took that rocket to another level altogether. Like, I'll try to find the clip because it's hard. It's almost 20 years old now. But they had videos of Daigo and Takedo sitting on with some celebrities or some other people in Japan that were not into games at all, and they're teaching them how to do things like fireball zone or uppercut motions. You will never find that anywhere outside of Japan, it seems like, but it helped grow that industry like crazy. And the reason that exposure is very important outside of just getting eyeballs on, it's almost like Street Fighter became a part of the cultural fabric of Japan, and that's very important to maintain some level of success in a game. Now the third element, I'm actually going to take a different look at this because this has changed a bit. We've heard it a million times. The Japanese are just amazing at sharing information, and it's true. Their top players have been sharing information long before other regions. But I'm going to argue that's actually closed quite a bit, because now with things like YouTube or Discord, every single region, Europe, North America, South America, you name it, people are sharing information. Day One Tech They're happy to show everything they have to help people improve, so we have caught up on this quite a bit. But the angle I'll take is where this helps the Japanese the most is because they have such a large population base of people that play Street Fighter, they're able to create so many high level to grandmaster level players, and I'm going to tell you why this is important. Because they're sharing all this information in this tech, they're making tons of high level players for every single character. That's why I think Japanese players know matchups better than any other region. Your community might only have 1 or 2 top grandmaster level Akumas. I bet you the Japanese have hundreds of them, or there's hundreds of Akis that they can go practice that we don't even have anywhere near that level of Aki. So what I'm trying to say is they just have such a large pool of people that are sharing information that they're almost like a supercomputer when it comes to learning things or gathering data from other characters. And I'll actually make a video on this in the future. It's a Street Fighter 4 video, but it goes to show how there's some serious killers in Japan that nobody knows about just because they don't travel, but these are the players that the top Japanese players are still losing to and learning from. Now, element number 4 is a bit anecdotal, I totally get it, but I believe in these things. The Japanese just have an unmatched passion and love for this particular series. And this is something that might not make sense if you don't know what I'm talking about, but there are just some countries, communities, cultures that they gravitate towards one thing, a sport, a dish, you name it. If they're passionate about it, they're going to be hard to beat in it. And that's why often you find these communities that just dominate something, they want to preserve that dominance. They'll put aside rivalries, they'll put aside differences just to make sure that their community, their country holds a title for as long as they can. And that's what makes Street Fighter unique, because Japan doesn't dominate in the other fighting games created by Japan. Like, they're not dominating Marvel games when Marvel used to be, the top king. They weren't dominating in Smash Bros. There's lots of games made in Japan that they didn't gravitate towards, but they're extremely proud of their Street Fighter dominance. And when you have that level of buy-in and dedication, I know this is going to sound so stupid, but it's almost like you have some supernatural aura around you. You're going to start winning games or winning tournaments that you had no business winning. You just won it on your reputation because the other team got shook, or they just weren't ready for what you had in store. Like, you weren't ready to let go of that title. I know it sounds crazy, but I've seen it a million times across tons of different genres. And as a Canadian, I see this from hockey all the time. It doesn't matter how close a team like America gets to Canada, they might even be better ranked. When they meet in a gold medal game, something is going to happen and Canada's going to pull out the W. It just seems to always work out that way. The last 3 gold medal games, same thing that happens. And I truly believe it comes down to the supernatural pride that we can't lose our title type of deal. I think the same thing applies to Japanese players, that they have that level of competitiveness that they never want to let go of that title. Now, the last element is a bit of a reach, but I'm still going to put it out there. The Japanese are from the Street Fighter motherland, and I'm going to tell you why I think that's important. Now, back in the day, it made a big difference. The Japanese would get video games anywhere from a year to 2 years in advance, and that made a huge difference. In my region, for millions of people, we had 2 Street Fighter 4 arcade cabinets. And I remember one of my buddies came back from Japan, and he's like, "Yo, dudes, we're playing a completely different game than those guys over there," because they've had the game for over a year at that time, and they just had thousands and thousands of cabinets. So that made a big difference when they'd get things ahead of time. And this is when I put on my tinfoil turban. And I think because Capcom is located in Japan, they do consult with a lot of the top players or high-level community members in Japan when it comes to fighting games. And I do believe that level of insight and information does benefit the Japanese players a lot. And you often know anytime there's a new balance update or you see players with tier lists, those are the types of information that the developers look at when they implement new changes. And you can see all the people complaining across other regions, but again, might just be anecdotal. You notice a lot of the changes that the Japanese players are highlighting are the ones that are often implemented or changed. And no, this is not trying to say that the Japanese are scheming and they're trying to win everything behind the scenes. I just think logically it makes sense that a country that's close to all these top players are going to be speaking to them, because that's just how the regions work. And I think that there are some NDAs that are signed that these pro players can't say a lot about what's going on, but I do think Japanese players impact a lot about the current and future state of where Street Fighter is going. And that's the video. I love making these types of fun videos. If you think I'm wrong, let me know in the comment section. If you agree, just blow me a kiss. I don't care. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll catch you in the next one, and I promise Tons of more videos are coming out. I revamped my schedule. My kids are back in school. We got this. Peace out, everybody.